Now I want to make a second part of this Orion and Nibiru history video. I want to go into a deeper history and what the Lord showed me back in 1995 when I was baptized with water, and I fasted and prayed for 7 days and 7 nights, and I was taken up into heaven and I was shown heavenly beings, shown one of the cherubim and seraphim. He was covered in eyes. It was like a human body, and it was covered in eyes within and without. And I asked the Lord, one of the things I asked the Lord was that I wanted to have that spiritually. So what the Lord told me is that it was a seer gift or a prophetic gift. Was that I had the gift of spiritual discernment in a way that I could read people's hearts and minds. I could discern where it was coming from, and usually 99.9% of humanity are going by their own lustful thinking and thoughts. And when that gift was turned on fully, I saw so much lies coming out of people's mouths just to get what they thought they wanted. There's a lot of deception involved, and I had to ask the Lord to actually tone that gift down a little bit. No, they're actually moving towards food and shelter, perhaps just animalistic behaviour. Although we sort of cover that up with wearing nice clothes and maybe going to church every so often. But the Lord showed me that we're all very animalistic in nature, and that's why the fallen angels, or that's why at least Scripture calls it the mark of the beast, because we have a fallen nature like beasts, and that's human beings. And the Lord gave me another vision several years later, connected with the United States presidency, that it was going to be very, very strongly connected with the Antichrist. He showed me a picture of George Bush back before he became president, and that's why I knew that he would win that election. If you check my website, you can see that I predicted that George Bush would win that election, and it was done, of course. Probably the American people voted for Al Gore, but again, that was a prophetic gift that I received. It means that I can see future events. It doesn't mean to say that what's behind it. Obviously, Satan is behind a lot of these choices for presidents and all that stuff. But the prophetic gift actually enables a person to actually see past the present time, and it gives an eye into people's human souls and nature. And the other part of that, the eyes were looking outwards, so it's an interdimensional sight. Okay, if I can try and explain that we live in 3 dimensions, but there are interdimensional beings, i.e. fallen angels, that do have physical bodies. They did actually sleep with human beings, human women, back in the day. It's recorded in Genesis 6. But they're not actually based as we are based on Earth. They can actually stay up in the second heaven, was described as the second heaven on the planets. And I know from watching a lot of videos on YouTube, as well as Shield of the Sun, it's made me very aware that when I wrote the book Starstruck, I wrote all about bases on other planets, other galaxies. Apparently there is a huge moon base, several miles high. It's a crystal city that was discovered, and you can see that these videos, if you can click on the links that you see on screen now, you can check these videos out as well. I did write about this also in Starstruck. But basically, these beings are acting with a lot of human beings on Earth, and they have their own religions, they have their own prayers, they have their own all that kind of stuff. Okay, which obviously it's not Christianity. They have their own alien gospel. I think it's called the Urantia. And obviously they pray to these beings, but knowing that they exist and praying to them are 2 different things. The Pope said that it's okay to believe in aliens, so actually you can see this link to one of Helias's videos that shows you that part of the Mass of the Catholic Church is dedicated to Lucifer in Latin, and that they actually claim that Jesus Christ is the son of Lucifer, which we know as Christians is a complete lie and very, very terrible twisting of the truth. fact it was Jesus Christ that created that fallen serpent cherub, and it's Jesus Christ also that will judge that and put it into the lake of fire at his second coming. And when these beings shape-shifted into human beings and slept with women, it meant their children were all different sizes and shapes, and they also had technology. Some of these beings have technology that they can actually change the human genetics and so on, and this is the transhumanism that we're looking at just now. I'll leave a few links to that as well. But I hope my subscribers, that I do have at least 500-600 subscribers, but I don't seem to get a lot of responses, which again, it just tells me that YouTube is playing up, and even though I may be getting 40 to 50, sometimes a few hundred views on these videos, I know that at least the Lord has appointed many other people to give this message, and all you really need to do is that if you doubt what I'm saying, if you're like switching off or whatever, but I can guarantee you there's dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of people now, Christians that is, that can testify to these things, what's going on, and that can make a common sense comment on it, and obviously link it to Bible prophecy as well. Without going through all this rigmarole of New Age garbage and nonsense. It's all false Buddhism. These high vibrations, they are demonic, what we describe as demonic, but a lot of them are actually from fallen angels. They're not actually demons, they're actually fallen angels. They have physical bodies, and they can interact interdimensionally with people, just as if you'd put like a large piece of paper in front of an ant when it's walking along. An ant is only sort of thinking two-dimensionally. It can't really see how to get around it at all. It just keeps moving in a straight direction, and it obviously crawls up the page. It's a little bit like human beings. If a fourth-dimensional creature is interacting with you, it will be called spiritual warfare, where we have to just go into our prayer closet and start to pray, sometimes fast. And I can remember that when I was engaging with Doug Perry, I think it was a couple of years ago. Don't know if he watches my videos. Certainly said that he does pray for me, but I don't know if he watches my videos anymore. But I can remember after we interacted in a telephone call that night, there was a large interdimensional ship that actually appeared over my car when I was driving on the motorway, and when I was heading towards the roundabouts, it let go like a small, I would say like the size of a wardrobe or something like that, maybe 6 foot by 4 feet object came down and hovered about 100 feet over my car. Now this is not demonic. This again is physical interdimensional beings, fallen angels that are actually interacting with the human race. And I believe the only thing that stopped these beings again from trying to do anything to me was the fact that I was in prayer with Jesus Christ, and that I do listen to Christian music in my car. So I really I really believe that it is the power of prayer, through living in a holy way and continually be in prayer, as the Apostle Paul says, that we are used to bring these principalities and powers down. Now, I did go into my prayer closet after I experienced this, and I prayed that this ship would be rebuked in the name of Yahweh. And within a few weeks, I read in a newspaper article that a farm down in England, I'm from the UK, so but this actually happened in a farm in the UK down in England. I'll try and get the article for you. And they have a large wind farm, and the interdimensional ship actually came out of its cloak or whatever it was in, and actually hit the blade of one of these large wind farm blades, and actually almost split the ship in half. It caused a lot of havoc. There was a large bang, a large noise. The farmer came out and saw this ship being almost chopped to pieces, and I don't know what happened to it. He went back and called the police, and then by the time they got back out, it disappeared again. But I think it had caused serious damage. So again, this is all through the power of prayer. Yes, we do have prayers, reading scriptures to rebuke demons, lesser demons that inhabit people. Their animalistic behaviour usually lead people into types of animalistic sin. Could be overeating, could be continually going after sexual lusts. It could be, craving positions and materialism, material world, or whatever it may be. Is all different types and kinds of power trips that these demons can put you in. But we know that we have the real power. There's false power, and there's worldly power. There's the power of what we have politically and so on, what we see going on in the world. And then there's the real power, the real spiritual power and authority that comes from Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, that we can actually rebuke fallen angels. And it does say this. Apostle Paul says that it's the foolish of this world that God uses to bring down principalities and powers. And it's people like us, Christians, that are kept down by the world all the time. We're kept down by our church, by YouTube, by other Christians, speaking against us, and so on. But it's through the power of prayer and the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, that we can indeed rebuke Satan in Yeshua's name and uncover the unfruitful works of darkness that's going on in the false Christians, and even the ones that even claim the name of Yahweh, which I believe I was outraged when I see one or two of these channels practicing witchcraft and actually claiming the name of Yahweh. They say it in their own way, which they claim that if you don't say it their way, you're not a Christian. That's garbage. It's a lie from Satan. Okay, don't believe that. It's witchcraft. Witches go in for a lot of pronunciation issues. I've never, since I've been born again, going into pronunciation issues, as long as that when a person speaks they can understand what's being said. That's the main thing. It's just like when I did a lot of writing when I was young as well, and my dad was a headmaster. He always tried to pull me up for my spelling errors, but he at least understood what I was writing about. He said that I had a creative writing talent, and I did win art competitions and writing competitions when I was at school. And I also was athletic. I won some athletic competitions, represented the school for the long jump and the 100 metres relay and so on. A lot of different things. I could have been a professional footballer, but my dad fell ill, so I had to get a job, to take care of him. But my life's very much been, I hope that when I look back on my life, it's not about the things that I've achieved in this world. It's about the fruit of the Spirit. It's about the time when maybe I could have gotten more in this world. I could have gotten a high position, but I've chose to just humble myself, maybe look after someone that needs looked after, give somebody money that needs money, just turn away from this this thing that people seem to want, this position and money. And there's also a lot of sexual sin, as we know, going on in the church as well, but position and money seem to be very, very high up, and so it was with Judas Iscariot, of course. But we all must guard against that spirit, and if we are genuine at all, Christians at all, then I would suggest that you do keep praying for me, and as I get to know you, I'll begin to pray for you, and you will see a difference in your life. I'm not joking. I can give you a lot of testimonies about people that I've prayed for and they have been healed of many different things. I might do a separate video on that, but this is just a background before I actually go into deeper history of Orion Nebula and this galaxy itself. So here we go. I'll read that out for you just now. I'm going to look at two main fallen angel species called the Dracos and the Saurons. I did write about them when I was born again. I gave them slightly different names, but this is what we know as human beings. This is what's the information that's been gathered, and there is overwhelming evidence of angels here on the earth, where many of them come from and what exactly their intent for mankind is. There is some excerpts from websites about the Dracos and the Saurons. They like to be referred to as gods or lesser gods. The Ishtar or Ashtaroth cult in East Africa stretches across the Middle East and is found in the Old Testament. You can see that in Genesis 14:5 and Jude 2:13. The Saurons are believed to be from Orion and are in control of the finances. You see that many banks across the Middle East and East Africa have the Orion symbol on them. So that's the power base structured there. The Dracos are very large, lizard-like in size, men 7 to 8 feet tall with powerful forms. The two main passageways in the Giza Pyramid are believed to lead to their respective home galaxies in Draco and Sirius, which we covered last week. Also, we covered the self-aware space gate in Orion last week. We did cover that. Movies such as Species depict a draconian race who have interbred with human beings. And again, we know that this comes from Genesis 6. As they came down, 200 of them, according to the Book of Enoch, came down to the Golan Heights in Israel. And we have covered that in previous videos. And this is where this triple helix DNA comes from. And the sign and symbol that I did in the last video. So the Orion Wars themselves, this is going back obviously before our creation. But the Orion Wars are documented in movies such as Star Wars. Orions warred against each other almost ceaselessly, thus driving many Orions to migrate to faraway worlds. Those migrating populations found Maldek, Mars and Terra in Solaria, which is a near solar system, star system on the edge of the Milky Way. With the gravitation of galactic forces along two contending poles, the cleavage between the Empire and Confederation, dubbed otherwise as Galactic Command or GC, again this is linked to Ashtaroth. You can check the websites for yourself. It really is going on just now. Was more or less complete. The destruction of the fifth planet, which was Rahab, is evidence that the wars reached our own solar system. Part of that destroyed planet is called Nibiru or Nemesis. The epical movie series was somehow successful in intuiting and indicating the contours of the conflict. The Empire began with around 600 worlds. Star Wars depicts 1,000 worlds, most specifically from the sector directed by Lucifer, i.e. Anakin or Darth Vader. Shared his name with a tribe in Numbers 13:33. So many other worlds soon joined the Empire for fear of being wiped out by a very predatory force. The Sith Lords, as depicted in Star Wars series, jives pretty accurately with the guardians of the Draconian Empire. The Orions were like the Trade Confederation in the Star Wars epic, the guardians of whom looked very Sauron-like, which are like the sort of grey species, which we can see here, a type of here. So accurate is the Star Wars epic that it depicted the leverage of each side of the Empire. Draco provided military might, where Orion provided cross-galactic trade. Draco in reality had no patience for conducting galactic trade affairs, a matter that it designated to its partner. Orion Greys are particularly very fascistic, to use their own Terran term, and will not brook punitive actions on failed expectations from negotiating partners or subordinated worlds. Again, we've spoken about this before, but the large elongated hats that we see in the Rastafari movement actually reflects one type of fallen angelic entities, which is depicted in the movie Alien. But they are more human-like. They don't have these dark eyes. These practically are just shields when they're actually moving around in their light ships, but their skulls are more human-like. I think they have hair, and they're less insect-like, as we see in the movie here, Alien. Now, the next part that we'll look at is their offspring here on the Earth, and we know that David faced the giant, who had 6 toes and had 6 fingers, and so we're just going to look at a brief history of these giants in the past 2,000 years. The Gomerian giants, having failed in their mission to eradicate the lesser forms of humanity and conquer the world, then turned on and destroyed themselves, unable to bear the consequences of their failure. Having defeated the most powerful of the Gomerian Celtic giants, the Romans then began to perfect the fine art of giant killing, which they applied aggressively in their campaigns against the giants throughout Europe. One of the tribes of giants fell to the javelins, arrows, spears and stabbing swords of the relentless Roman legions, until the remnant was forced to flee into the dark forests of Europe and even to the Americas, where they immigrated with the native populations and waited for them to rise again. This is certainly true even in the Red Indian population. There was known to be over 7 to 8 feet tall so-called Red Indians, but they were in fact the giant races that had migrated and intermingled with the Red race at that time, before the Europeans came to actually settle there. But the seed of the giants was not destroyed completely. Deep in the depth of the heavily forested strongholds of Europe, the giants began to regroup and form secret alliances bound by blood and marriage. Over time, slowly and subtly, the old ways of the giants returned, and they used stealth, secrecy, and subversion to slowly take control of the thrones of Europe. And one of the first and boldest of these giants was the infamous Roman Emperor Maxus Thrax, who was born in AD 173 into a humble family of Thracian, which is now Belgian, shepherds. Maximinus proved his giant heritage by growing to an enormous height of 8 feet 6 inches tall. His sudden ascension to emperor brought the Maximinus limitations and his dark side. As a result, he began to receive the unflattering informal titles of the Cyclops and Bucerius, and even the Wild Beast. Charlemagne the Great was born in France, Northern Europe. By the sword and the cross he became master of Western Europe. Charlemagne was a powerful, imposing figure, his height in legend being close to 8 feet tall. He was also a great warrior and athlete, and had strength like that of Maximus. In ballads that contemporaries sang in his praise, he was so hardy that he would hunt the wild bull single-handed, so strong that he felled the horse and rider with the blow of his fist. He could straighten 4 horseshoes joined together and lift with his right hand a fully equipped fighting man to the level of his head. Charlemagne was also in the Merovingian family. The characteristics in 2 Samuel 21:20 show that these races had extra digits on their fingers and toes, showing their heritage as mixed human-angel hybrids. Now, just a brief description of the 2 main bases on the Earth, which is the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon's Triangle, located off the coast of Japan and off the coast of America. So we have in 1970 Dr. Ray Brown, a neuropathic practitioner from Mesa, Arizona, was scuba diving with friends near the Barrier Islands, Bahamas, in the area 20 miles from the edge of the submarine drop called the Tongue of the Ocean. During the dive, Brown became separated from his companions, and in trying to rejoin them, suddenly he saw a strange pyramid shape looming up against the aquamarine light. The pyramid was situated 22 fathoms down, stood 120 feet high, with only 20 feet projecting out of the sea floor shifting sands. Brown was at first struck by how smooth and mirror-like the stone surface of the structure was, with the joints between the individual blocks almost indiscriminable. Swimming about the capstone, which the Arizona diver thought looked like lapis lazuli, he discovered an entranceway and decided to explore it further. Passing along a narrow hallway, Brown finally came to a small rectangular room with a pyramid-shaped ceiling, which was amazing. What was amazing was the room contained no algae or coral growing on the inner walls. They were completely spotless. In addition, though Brown had brought no flashlight, so could nevertheless see everything in the room perfectly, as it was very bright and well lit, but no direct light source was visible. Brown's attention was drawn to a brazenly metallic rod 3 inches in diameter, hanging down from the apex of the centre, and its end was attached a many-faced red gem, which came to a point. Directly below the rod and gem, sitting in the middle of the room, was a stand of carved stone, topped by a stone plate with scrolled ends. On the plate rested a pair of carved metal bronze-coloured hands, life-size, which appeared blackened and burnt, as if having been subject to tremendous heat. Nestled in the hands and situated 4 feet directly below the ceiling rod gem point was a crystal sapphire, 3.5 inches in diameter. Brown's first attempt to pry loose the sealing rod and the gemstone, neither would budge at the start, but he turned back and he used a bronze hand holder and left the pyramid with it. As he departed, Brown felt a presence, heard a voice somewhere telling him never to return. Fearing that this unusual prize might be confiscated as salvaged treasure by a presence by the US government, Dr. Brown did not disclose the existence of the strange crystal or his experience until 1975, where he exhibited the crystal for the first time. He displayed the crystal only a half-dozen times, but each time witnesses have seen or have been sensitive to strange phenomena directly associated with it. Deep inside the crystal form, one gazes upon the pyramid image with one in front of another in decreasing sizes. Some entering into a meditative or alpha brainwave state of consciousness are able to clearly see a fourth pyramid and the foreground of the other 3. So what this shows, in fact, is that Luciferan, which is his original name, you'll find that name on the planet Mars as well, on some of the structures in Mars. That is the original name of the fallen cherub. It's Luciferan. What we actually have is people like Todd Bentley, who claim to be evangelists and men of God, saying that they were taken up on ships and angels cut their stomachs open. And he actually was quoted saying this. He said, "I couldn't stop laughing until they put something inside and sealed it with lasers." This is Todd Bentley speaking, the man of God, false man of God, evangelist. He's obviously had an encounter with fallen angels, just like many others have. And I guess they don't like to be confronted with these truths. And a lot of Satanists actually say that, that light equals Lucifer. So if Jesus was saying, "I'm the light of the world," they associate that with Satan. And just like Jonathan Clegg's videos highlight the fact that in Satan's kingdom, he tries to turn everything upside down. He tries to take the glory which belongs to God for himself. And Jesus says, "I am the light of men. I've come into this world so that you can come to me and not walk in darkness." But the Satanists will actually say that this is Lucifer. And this is a satanic, terrible lie. And as we saw in the previous link there before, which I mentioned in the Helas video, that there is in Catholic Mass, they do mention the name Lucifer, Luciferan, and actually say that Jesus Christ was his son. And this is a terrible, terrible satanic lie. Now, just as this main base called the Dragon's Triangle is actually based off the coast of Japan and Korea, that was where I saw the meteor strike there. And you can see that the Stone Empire of Daniel not only punishes the sin of man, but actually destroys one of Satan's main bases on earth, which then obviously begins to destroy his influence bit by bit in the earth. And until Jesus Christ's coming, obviously all the judgments in the book of Revelation, many attribute them to Satan, but in fact they're actually judgments of God against Satan's kingdom here on the earth. And the sooner we realise that, the better for us. Now, these underground water bases not only correlates to the Saurons, but I believe it was aquatic-like modification of what we saw earlier. But also the Dagon tribe know of water beings that came from far distant galaxies, from Sirius B, I think it was, and identified them from Orion. And this is obviously linked to the Dagon culture, or the Dogon tribe, or the Dagon god is the half man, half fish god that we can see the pictures here. I've done videos on this. That again, the Catholic Church, the hats that they wear also in the Church of England relate to the Dagon fish god. They are fish hats that they wear. They were not prescribed in the Old Testament. They're not anything to do with the commands the Lord gave, but they are about the priesthood of Dagon, which are obviously very active here on earth through what is called the Roman Catholic Church, the mega cult that many associate with the Antichrist or the false Jesus Christ. as it's when Jesus comes back, they'll just see how, well, maybe some of them, if they're still alive, will see how enraged he is against people that entertain and feed these false priesthood and cults, and I don't see enough people speaking out about them. Certainly, there's been one or two that have spoken against me, my own so-called brothers or sisters on YouTube who are Christians, that have said that I'm a legalist, but try actually telling them to go to a Catholic church and call their priest legalists, see how they got on with that. They pick their enemies quite well here on YouTube, what they consider weak and easy targets like myself. But in fact, if they're wrong and I'm not a weak and easy target, and I actually know my Creator, then they're in serious trouble, because they're actually stopping the will of God being done, as we should work together to expose the works of darkness. And basically my enemies are Satanists and witches, and those that worship false gods. So if I get my own brother and sister who believe in Jesus Christ setting their self up as my enemy, then it's not a good idea at all. We're not actually instructed to do that, cause division among the brethren, and that is one of the 7 deadly sins as mentioned in the book of Proverbs. So I'd recommend very, very quickly, if you actually see this and you are a true brother and sister of Jesus Christ, that you repent of your sin and get with it and start acting with the rest of the body of Jesus Christ, who is uncovering the works of darkness here on this fallen earth.